welcome to Body Story.
Hi. Hi. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here, hon. We go back to our teaching
We go back
days.
down
Oh
years.
my
Oh,
gosh.
Natasha.
Did you say
I'm talking
Natasha?
about years. I did.
Well, even when I hear Natasha, it just sounds so it's so part of me, but it's like, ooh, Natasha. I feel like I gotta sit up taller.
I don't think so many years. I was definitely 21, 22. I'm 36 now. That's how long we've been
Girl.
in each other's orbit. I was a fresh out of Howard.
Ooh, fresh. Just up in there teaching and
Fresh.
just
Fresh out of Howard. 22.
oh, shout out to
14
Anacostia.
years. Shout out to
Girl.
Anacostia.
Well, hun, introduce yourself because you and I will just get on our little spiel. Who
I
are
know.
you? What do you
I
do? Where do
am.
you live? Let's hear about you, mama.
I am Shayna Yvonne. I go by Shayna Yvonne, but my full name is Shayna Yvonne Rudd. My aunt, my great aunt is Yvonne, and so since her passing, I have taken Yvonne very seriously. So
Mm,
I am Shayna Yvonne. I
mm,
am a psychotherapist. I am an educator.
mm,
I am a leader of a fearless group of young girls called the Legends. I am a mother.
mm.
I am a daughter. I'm a sister and a friend, but I am a healing artist, a revolutionary artist, and I am a woman phenomenally.
You are. Yes.
That's
Yes.
silly. But yes, that's me. And I live here in Philadelphia. I feel like I halfway be living in Washington, D.C. still.
You
I
still
do.
DC.
I don't know how to let go, D.C. I always tell people that Philly is family, but D.C. is actually home to me. I
Wow.
feel like where I grew up.
Mm.
Um, I don't have any social skill or social life here in Philadelphia. Like I'm still learning where to go. But if you take me to DC, I'm ready. I'm ready to
Yes.
hit the ground running. So yeah,
Yes,
I'm from
girl.
Philly originally. I do most of my work here in Philly, but the Legends is actually establishing a new chapter in DC. So I'm between Philadelphia and DC right now. And
Oh,
it's so
Shayna, that
cool.
is wonderful news and
It's so
so
cool.
so necessary in our city to bring legends here.
Yeah, and like we were there and we did a lot of work there, but then once I came back home, I feel like Philly was just like where you I got planted and it was easy to
Mm,
get planted. Like I know everybody here. So when the opportunity came to bring it back to DC, I knew that it was supposed to be happening. It was just the timing. So we're working on that now.
mm.
To kind of split our staff, split everything between the two cities to really build DC up to be as prominent as Philly's chapter is now. Yup.
Oh, girl, yes, big
I'm
plan. So I'm
excited.
very lucky to be stealing some of this quality time right now.
I want some lipstick on to the people. I'm so sorry. Normally I would have on
Girl,
lipstick.
I just felt like these are
Woman,
my grandmother's clip-on pearls.
you
She
look
didn't have her ears pierced, so these are her
good.
clip-ons. And this is some Estee Lauder. My mom wasn't wearing it. She's like, "Girl, you want this?" I was like, "Yes." So
It's pretty. It's really
thanks,
pretty.
hon. Shayna, why did you say yes? When I asked you to do this, why did you say yes to sharing your body story today?
Well, it's you. It's you, Coco. There's no, if you asked, I would absolutely say yes because it's
Oh,
you. It's the
oh,
investment of
Shayna.
who you are to people. So I think that
Oh,
that's one. But then in regards to the
thank you.
body story, I think the combination between being a psychotherapist and an artist and a dancer and using my body, and I've been using my body since I was 3 because I've been a
Mm,
dancer since I was 3 years old. I'm 36 and I still perform. I just thought it would be a unique body story, but also as a psychotherapist, understanding how much our body holds
mm.
from a trauma perspective, from a love perspective, from an energy perspective. And I kind of had the feeling, here comes my child.
Hi, baby soul. Good
You
morning,
hear her
honey.
playing
I can't hear.
music. So the combination between those two, I don't know why those two things intersected as soon as you sent me the invitation. And I had a feeling that we were going to end up going into both of them. So I
Yes.
just wanted to make sure that I was prepared and ready to
Mm,
offer and vulnerable enough to offer both sides of that experience because to be a dancer and in your body, you have to be very in touch with it. But then there are things that make you detach and
mm,
disassociate from your body.
mm.
So Yeah, because
See,
when we
and
were
and
talking,
and Shayna, that's honestly one of the reasons. I mean, there's a lot of reasons I asked you, but one thing I've always found about you, both in the way you carry yourself, like I said earlier before we started, recording this, was just this elegant and this grace. But with that, there's not perfectionism. There's vulnerability that just feels like it comes naturally with you. And I don't know if that's because you've been a dancer, because you've been on stage in beauty shows. I don't know where that comes from, but that I have felt from you instantaneously, that the grace and the beauty with that vulnerability. So I'm hoping we can bring some of that to light today.
ooh, that is so interesting
It's true,
because
Shayna.
I
I can
don't
think of
know,
some
but I don't know.
Go ahead. I'm sorry,
But I
honey.
don't know. I think I'm a baby thug. I never think that I never
Oh,
think that I'm graceful. People tell me, and I'm always like, I fall over my feet. I can't wear white. I'm rough around the edges. I'm all the way West Philly. And then I'll meet someone, I'll see like an older gentleman like in the Target, and I'll have on sneakers, and he'll stop me and go, "Did you dance? Are you a ballet
oh.
dancer?" And I would go, "How do you, what is it that gives that
Mm,
impression?" But just that,
yes.
as Du Bois would say, like that double consciousness of like being very aware that like I have a body that obviously moves elegant because of my years of training, but
Yes.
then having this other thing that's completely disassociated from that body because
Mm,
of what we do to ourselves to be beautiful, that can like an abuse. Like ballet is abuse to the body.
mm.
It's
Oh,
straight up abuse.
okay. We got to just jump into this, girl.
Let's
Is that
just
where
go
you
on.
want to start? Where do you want to, what is your body story and where do you want to start? Do you want to start with dance, Shayna?
I feel like, and I want to make sure that I'm, because I know that the Coco experience is very and has always been very spiritual and
Mm,
very like organic. So I want to make sure that I'm leaning towards, yes, this double consciousness thought is what I want to talk about. My body story is, I'm a black girl with a black body, and I entered a white
mm,
world of
mm,
ballet.
mm.
Um, so black girls, we do. I mean, I feel like it's diasporic. Like we have more curves, we have more things, like we got things. And
Yeah.
I remember when I started to go through puberty, I became
Mm,
grossly aware that I was black
mm,
and that I was different and I was built in a way that was not like my white counterparts. And so, as much as I was establishing elegance in the body, I was also establishing self hatred. So, these two
mm,
things are working at the same time because I'm in a space where Black girls really aren't welcomed. And we have now, and I'm so glad that there is a Misty Copeland, but before there was a Misty Copeland, there was a Dolores Brown Abelson, and there was Joan Myers Brown, and there was Niecy Lewis, and there were
mm,
all these Black dance dolls who paved the way for Misty Copeland
mm,
to arrive, right? And for us
mm.
to be embracing her in a dance sphere with her, she has heavy breasts, she has curves. This was
Yes.
not happening. You
Yes.
either had to be very thin, very frail, you had to be very Balanchine. I'm referencing George Balanchine, who is like the father of ballet. You had to look
Mm,
like that to get ahead. And the fact that you were black meant that you were probably, if you were in a company, you were raising a flower and you were in the back,
mm,
right? So coming up in this kind of very, and I have to say it, a very white, Eurocentric world of ballet. And I wanted to be a serious ballerina. And my directors would always say, well, you should probably do modern. You have the
wow.
body for modern. You should aim for Alvin Ailey. You should aim for black spaces. And then in those black spaces, the standards were white, right?
Mm,
So there were more black bodies doing it, but the standards were still, I still knew that my mentor had an eating disorder. And then I was
mm,
struggling with eating disorders because you wanted to look
mm.
a certain way. There was a certain fantasy that you're selling.
And you even mentioning, and I've heard different language for eating disorders, Shayna, but people do not think of Black girls and women of color when they think of eating disorders.
They
Our
don't.
society primarily leans into white women. So to
Yes.
even, I think it's so important, and I'm sorry to like break up the conversation, but can you talk a little bit more about what did that feel like for you, Shayna, both like being in this beautiful black body, but experiencing that self-hate to the point of where it may have even manifested in an eating disorder.
It, I'm so grateful for the times we're in now where we are like having these conversations. But during that time, there was no one to discuss. But God bless, her name was Holly Wright. She was an up and coming dancer at Philadelphia. She was my mentor. To this day, she is still someone that I look. Someone told her I wasn't eating,
Mm.
and she pulled me to the side and was like, we ain't doing this. Like, you have to eat. You have to. So if Holly Wright sees this, which I'm going to share it with her so that she can know, so she can have her flowers. Holly now is on Broadway and did The Color Purple. And Holly,
Oh,
she's
all right,
fabulous. And
Holly.
Holly had a black girl body. But I remember knowing that she also was kind of like not treated at the, she was, Holly's magical. And I just felt like they didn't treat her at the highest level of magic because she didn't
Mm.
have the proper shaping, but she did. Like, when I'm thinking back to it, the
Yes.
expectation is so unrealistic. It's like you need to have
So,
no breasts, no hips, no butt. Like, and this is pre Megan the Stallion days. Like, this is the days when like that was beautiful. You know what I
mm.
mean? Especially in a dance world. So it was a war. I just remember no one being able to understand it. In my family, I'm considered thin. My mother's thin. Like, we're the smaller ones in the family. So this
I mean, because
idea
I
of me,
think of you as petite. Honestly, Shayna, just petite and tight and very poised and very dancery. You literally have the body of a dancer in my mind.
and I think that, thank you. And I think that I think that's so sad that I don't know it. At
Mm.
that time, the puberty, 13, 14, getting boobs, starting your cycle. And then also that dynamic of, I go to an all black school with black boys. So now I'm getting a butt,
Mm.
and now they're starting to tell me I'm cute because I got the
Oh.
booty. So then I'm at this
Oh.
war, like, I think I want this booty. But I'm in this ballet world that requires me not to have this booty. And then I also I have a scholarship to this predominantly white ballet school where like I make them want to vomit. So I'm in all
Oh.
of these spaces trying to navigate like, well, where do I belong and where is this body acceptable? And
Wow.
so that war went on until Howard. And then when I got to Howard, I was introduced to Southern bodies where like you got to have a big behind to be.
What
So
are
then
your
you can
no,
go to be
oh
from
my
here to be
gosh,
from
what a
there.
shock. Like
It was so much. I was like, what do you mean? Like, this, oh, now this is acceptable. And you want more. So just never being in a space where it was like, hey, the body that you have
Mm.
works.
Oh,
It doesn't work. It doesn't really work anywhere. In our community, you're fit and you're tight, but like you could be thicker because
mm,
men love ass. Excuse my mouth. But then if you get all of that, you go to the stage, you're too
mm,
thin. You're
mm.
too big. It was a lot. Excellent. Sorry, Coco. Can you put panties on? I can't. Can you go get panties?
I mean, we're talking about the body story,
Want
and mama
mommy.
is telling baby girl to put on some panties.
Okay, good girl. Okay, she needs panties. I'm just gonna pick them out for her.
Okay,
Here you
sure.
go.
Let's
Put them
let's keep
on.
flowing with this. This is
Keep flowing.
fun.
That's
Little
my child.
action.
You're welcome. Okay, so yeah, so when you're telling me body stories and elegance, this is a better lighting.
Yes.
I don't connect it even now at 36. I still don't connect it as in like, oh, my body was good, or it just there's like a disassociation there because there's these this double consciousness around it. Okay, give me 1 second, okay? Thank you. All right.
What do you think it would have meant for you as a teenager when you were in that heightened ballerina space for you to just feel that the body you lived in was just what you needed? What do you think that would have done for you?
I would have continued to perform. I would have been limitless. I probably would have created at a different level. And at some point, I made an exchange because it just was so hard. I remember, give me 1 second, please. Okay, Coco, give
It
me 1 second. Sorry.
no
Give me one.
problem.
All right.
This is actually really, I'm going to use this time wisely. So right now, what is going through my mind as I'm interviewing Shayna, knowing how deeply involved she is with working with young girls, I want to get curious from her to find out how has her personal body story, how has this shaped how she's creating her business? How has this shaped the messaging that she is giving to these young girls that are showing up for legends, that are dancing, that are putting on these leotards, that are going through puberty themselves? How does she use her story to help really shape their experience as dancers, as Black girls in Black, beautiful bodies, loving and embracing dancing? And that is what is coming up for me as I'm asking Shayna these questions. I also, to tie this, what could have, where would she have gone? What might she be doing now if those limits and all the outside influence didn't play a role? So if she wasn't hearing the messages, she used the phrase a moment ago that they wanted to actually throw up, that she had a scholarship to a predominantly white dancing school, and the physicality of that. So how does her body story, how is that now being used to her work now? I use that little break as a kind of an out loud thinking process, Shayna, and this is the number one thing that's hitting me right now.
Okay.
The work that you do with young girls with legends, how has your personal body story, all of the stuff that you've experienced, Shayna, how do you use this as a story now with your girls? How do you use this as a message?
So this is how Legends was birthed because there were no spaces
Mm,
in the dance world that gave a living poop about my social emotional growth outside of Denise Lewis, who is my
mm,
dance mother to this day, and Holly Wright. No, you got it off to the side, but you didn't get it right in your face.
mm.
And so Legends is this very in your face. I don't care about how high your leg goes. I care about your heart and your spirit and your growth. And you know, I know when all my girls start their cycle. I know,
Mm.
and that probably sounds really, but I know it's just this open forum of I have cramps today. I'm laying on the
Oh,
floor and I know when we're putting a blanket over you, or I know when the girls start to develop, when they start to go through things with boys. I know when I have
mm,
girls who are questioning their sexuality. It's just this, um, you know, it's a space where we're just like, look, this is what it is. And we're artists
oh,
and we dance, but it's that
yes.
first because there was none of that.
Mm,
And that's not a testament to that's not a moral judgment to those spaces. I came under the tutelage of Joan Myers Brown, who was a living pioneer. She is about to be 90 years old here in
mm,
Philadelphia, the founder of Philadelphia. And this is a woman who started Philadelphia because there were no Black schools, that they weren't allowing Black children into white spaces to learn to dance. So she started Philadelphia. The fierceness that she has and the hardness that she has is
mm,
historical. You know
mm.
what I mean? Our people weren't welcomed to talk about their emotions. So I came up under that. So it was not that she didn't love me. The way that she loved me was she was fighting the Pennsylvania Ballet, saying, I'm sending Black girls down there. They need to have a full scholarship, and you better have them on the brochure. Click. That's the type of stuff I saw growing up. Okay, and didn't know that that was revolutionary,
Wow.
didn't know that that was resistance. I just remember watching it as a kid, like, she's scary. So she was doing that. She,
Wow.
you know what I mean? She was doing that. She didn't know, like, oh, Shayna might be having issues at home, and that's why
Mm,
she's coming. There was no time for that. She was
mm,
trying to create a lane that we all now benefit from. I don't get the luxury of that because I had
mm,
a Joan. So because I had a Joan, I feel like I have to pick up the torch that she couldn't, which is the
mm,
social emotional piece. So
mm.
there is no proper body in our program. I have girls who are very thin. I have girls who are very developed. I had a girl who was severely depressed and was obese and did our program for 6 weeks and lost the amount of weight that she needed to lose in order to be healthy because she was pre-diabetic, and
Wow.
danced. And when I
Wow.
say danced, there was no cutting corners. There was no, oh, because you are dealing with your weight and you're overweight, oh, you can't roll around on the floor. Roll around on the floor. We're not gonna.
How does this show up? Like, how do you, because with girl, I remember there was a lot of pressure. I felt, not, it was my own pressure, but comparing to other girls all the time. My body
Yeah,
to their body, how they looked wearing this versus how I looked. How do you create with the legends and with all these young ladies of different body sizes, but they're united with this love of dance and being artists? How do you kind of look for those maybe comparing and like kind of nip that in the bud or use that as a teachable moment so that girls are looking at each other and honoring the differences of our bodies? How do you do
yeah.
that?
I think that we just talk about it. Like, I think that we start at such a level playing field. Like, there are no stars here.
Mm.
We just have norms in our program that, and I'm not saying people don't compare, but if I notice you're comparing, it's going to show up. So there's no
Mm.
moving on and shoving things under the rug. So like if there's a girl fight happening, sadly that means class is canceled and we're circling up and we're having a discussion about it right then. And
Wow.
yeah, so it happens
That's
right then. So it's confronted.
mm.
And then the sisterhood, we have to do what we call restorative justice, where it's like, and now we have to restore the anything that's broken in the chain. And it may take a few days for the restoration, but the goal is always, how do we bring the crack back in, because this is our house. This is
Ooh,
our house.
look at Mama Fick. Now you're like, no, we cleaning this up,
We ain't
bringing it
playing
full
this.
circle.
We ain't playing this, Coco, because I grew up in a dance school where girls that I love with all my heart, they put us against each other. There was the
Oh,
light skin, dark skin thing. There was the she's in the front row and she's in the back row thing. There was the,
mm,
and if you were the star, if you were the star of school, everybody hated you. And
mm,
so a lot of that stuff broke my spirit. A lot of that stuff had me to isolate, and I carried it with me. And to this day, I
mm.
still have to shake it off if I'm coming into a room, if people are giving me too much attention, I get nervous, because I remember what it was like being in a school where it almost felt like sometimes the teachers were okay with the discord, and not because they weren't loving, but because there is a culture a lot of times, I feel like, with us as women, as sisters, of just like we almost bond through that. And
Mm.
I didn't
Mm.
want that at Legends. We're not bonding over mess. We're not bonding over gossip. We are
Yes.
bonding over shared experiences and how to support if you have not had that experience. And that's the one thing that I am super proud of with Legends, is that that cultural norm has lasted. It was established from the
Mm.
beginning when we went into this arts space, because when we were just Lady Diva, there wasn't a lot of arts in Lady Diva. So when I started to do the arts thing, and there were these spaces where I was constantly having classes and trainings, and that was the cultural norm that was set. And that's not just a norm with the kids. Now the parents do it. So if you
Mm.
step into our house, there's an expectation that people can be as raw as they need to be, and you can't judge them, you can't shade them, and you better not share their business. It's
Oh,
just
Shayna. Gosh, girl, you are just creating a whole. I'm just sitting here just like jaw drop. This is a movement. You're literally shifting and changing generations with this, Shayna.
I'm
And
trying.
the
I
way
know.
no, it's true. The reason it feels, and I can say that as someone who's known you for many years, it's authentic to you. The reason that culture has not shifted is because that is unshakable within you. Even when we were in our teaching days at Anacostia, rocking Lady Diva meetings with the girls, there was no differentiation of any girl that rolled up in there. I don't care if she had the
Mhm.
biggest reputation with the teachers of being kind of a tough
Yep.
girl to the sweetest straight A student. Those girls were all getting the same type of love and a treatment, that
It makes
consistency.
me want to cry.
That
Mhm.
consistency, Shayna, do you remember that?
I
It was
do.
beautiful. It
I
was
did it.
beautiful, girl. I
I
mean, I
did
just
it.
Oh, yes, let it out. And
You never see.
I want to bring this because this is your body story. And I
Mhm.
want to ask a question around growing up in that world, especially when you turn to pageants. Can we shift gears a little bit to that experience, Shayna? Because
Yeah.
what I mean, again, this is all shaped to what you brought to Legends right now, but can you take us to your days of being, what's the language you use? Is it pageants? Am I using the right language? What, Miss
Oh,
District
yeah,
of Columbia, what
yeah.
do you want to say here?
Girl, yeah, it was pageants. It was pageantry. It was yeah,
Was that your
yeah.
choice? How did you get involved in that? I don't know if I ever
So
asked you that.
I got involved in pageants because I sat my freshman year and watched the Miss Howard University pageant, and I said, I'm going to be Miss Howard.
Yeah.
And I said it to somebody, and I was like, I'm going to be Miss Howard. And then that was it. I meant it. I was a freshman. I didn't compete until my junior year, and I was Miss Howard. I meant it. Black pageantry is very different than, a Miss DC, but it's
Mm,
rough because
mm.
they're going to boo you if you get your questions wrong. They will boo you if Howard was no joke. It was no joke. Like, you had to be talented. If you weren't talented, child, they are shading you. Okay. So
Can I
I
just ask this? Because I've never been to a Howard. Is it like in the auditorium, students get tickets?
got
Is that like really how it goes
Yeah.
down?
So the preliminary might be in like like a little smaller auditorium, and it's close and you see everybody, but you're doing all of the things. You have an evening gown, you have a platform, you have question and answer, you have a talent, and this is happening in this kind of small space, and it's packed. I just remember Miss School of Communications was packed. I was real fierce though at Miss School of Communications, but it was really, really packed. And then I won, and then a girl went on to say that I cheated and had a petition signed.
Stop it. Cheated
And it
how?
didn't
What was the
matter.
accusation?
He
What was
was
the
he was saying that, well, the girl who was over the pageant was someone that I was friendly with. And she was
Okay.
saying, I think she gave her the answers. Well, honey, girl, she didn't. But she went and got a petition, her and her mama over on the neck. And so and then I went to Miss Howard, which is now in Crampton Auditorium with seats over 1,000 people, could be even more than that. And
Yeah.
so that filled to the brim
Mm.
with people.
Ooh,
And
girl, what a style. I mean, everybody probably came
baby,
dressed to the nines. You know how we do. We be
baby,
looking
listen,
fresh.
home.
Ooh.
This is how. And they'll boo you and they'll clap or they won't clap or they'll snicker. And you knew people liked, you knew people didn't like. And it was this, you had to just go out there and you had to sell. And Howard University preps you for that. It
Mm.
really does. So when I was scouted to do Miss District of Columbia, it was a black man from Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity who just said, I really think that you would do well at Miss America. And it never dawned on me. So then I went to Miss DC. I won Miss DC on the first try, and then I was
Yeah.
off to Miss America. And it was like I graduated from Howard in May. I was at Miss DC in July. I was in Miss America the following January.
Oh, I love it.
And then I started teaching at Anacostia in the midst of that.
What? Let me ask for you that young Shayna. What were your what was the image like? What were you saying to yourself in that beauty pageant world? What were the thoughts? Was it like very like I'm in this? This is what were you thinking about yourself?
Howard gave me so much confidence, to
Mm,
be in my blackness, to be, I
mm,
didn't wear my hair straight at that time. I
mm,
was very like low bun. How we're all doing our hair now, I was doing that then because that's
mm,
the vibe that I got from Howard. And then I hit Miss DC and I won Miss DC as myself authentically. The very
mm.
next day they sit you down at a lunch and they tell you everything that's wrong with you.
No way.
The very next day. And my mama is sitting next to me. My mama is sitting there like, my mama got long nails like this. My mama is straight West Philly. Her nails is like this. She was like, I was so embarrassed because she was giving them all of this. And this is a group of white people. And within a week, I was shipped to a hairdresser. I had a full length weave. By the time you met me, I was in a full length weave.
Yes.
This was a process. I was compared to Jada Pinkett Smith. They had photos of Jada Pinkett Smith up. I think at that time she was wearing long hair. I was to pattern myself after Jada Pinkett Smith physically. Ironically enough, I just met her husband the other day. Isn't that weird how life just,
Yes, it's just beautiful how it all comes together. Wow.
and they were comparing us, and I had to have long hair. They picked me apart. The only thing they didn't pick apart was my body. Because I had that dancer physique, I had ab stomach. They were never worried about me losing swimsuit. They knew that I would show up that way, but they picked apart everything else. So by the time I did the swimsuit competition at Miss America, I didn't feel good. Like I didn't feel
Mm,
physically in my body good because you've torn down everything else. When I say
mm.
everything, they left nothing unturned from my dance artistry. They thought I was a beautiful dancer, but you got to change the song. It's too black. You're too black. You are too black. I remember them telling me, this is in the Obama era, you needed to be Obama, but you were Jesse Jackson. They don't
Oh,
even know the history of Jesse Jackson. They didn't even know Jesse. They
that
didn't
was the
even know
actual
Jesse.
like
The
language.
actual language. You needed to be vanilla, but you wanted to be strong and you want to be powerful, and you don't need to be because you already are a lot.
Girl, I just right. I mean, maybe it's just the naivete, the ignorance. I know that this is the truth. This is the reality. But to sit across a table and be told like that with your mother next to you,
And
what?
my mother, I think, felt helpless because
Oh,
my mother is coming from, I'm a single mother. I work three jobs. We don't have a lot of money. We've never been in this sphere before. And my daughter is taking us to this place now where people care about how she looks. And I really think, and I empathize now with my mother sitting there, and it's like nothing's wrong with my child. Like just
mm,
that feeling of like, but I can't say nothing because my child want to go into this world where and I want her to, because this what she wants, and she wants to be out here. She wants to be at this level, and I don't really care because all I ever wanted for her was go to college. She graduated college. I think I've done well because none of us went to college. So my
mm,
mother is kind of like, why we even got to go this far?
yes.
When we went to Miss America, she went to bed. They tell me stories of her now when they realized that they did a reality show about Miss America. So I was on that show and I was somebody they really liked. When she got to Vegas, she said she realized the reality. Like, what
Mm,
if my child wins? And they sat them down and they were like, if she wins, you won't see her for a year. You will not see her for a year. And they said my mother went to her room and just cried because she's like, I don't know why we have to do this. They are destroying her to
mm,
give her this kind of crown. And I thank God for, in the last 5 or 6 years, we've seen more girls of color in pageant spaces and girls wearing their natural hair. And
yes.
that is, once again, this is a work of many of us who came
Yes.
before them, who did
Mm,
not have that luxury and who were picked apart and dragged when
mm,
we are still trying to recover
girl.
from the years of that. That's why I said when we talked about the body story, there is a double consciousness. There is this knowing that this is this body that I possess, yet it has never felt like it's been totally in my possession because of the different work that I've done. If that
Do
makes
you
sense. Like,
it makes perfect sense, Shayna. How and just to kind of bring this full circle,
yep.
how are you feeling
Sorry,
about
I'm
the
moving
connection?
around.
Hi, soul.
Don't be mad, I'm moving around. Yeah, she's starting. So I'm here. Can you see me?
I can see you
Hi, friend.
perfectly.
Everybody, forgive me. I'm a mother. Okay. You'll have
Girl,
to
and
miss
all the
me.
mamas watching are going to be, and I'm not editing this at all. I'm not cutting it
Don't
out.
edit
It's
us.
staying.
So
No
they
one has
can
time for
know.
that. This is reality. What are you feeling about the connection to your body right now? 36 years old, you're a mother. How are you feeling about that now, Shayna?
I feel like I'm starting to connect with my body, but then when you have a baby, there's another there's another disconnection. You're welcome. And I carry Soul and enjoyed carrying her and did everything, and then I started to like. So I like my body now. That's one thing. I do
Mm.
like my body. I got hips out of the deal. That 35 plus thing has set in. I feel like I'm real fine. But I
Yes.
think it's under the undersurface thing is where the work is. Because the body keeps a score, and that's the part that
Mm,
really want, and that's actually a book, The Body Keeps a Score, and it talks about every experience we have that our body is holding it.
mm.
It's holding it and it remembers it. So oftentimes you could be 10 years away from whatever happened, and a smell will come across your nose, and your body will have a reaction to it because the body is what's holding it. So my
Mm.
work now is releasing what I'm going to call the toxins from my body that I've acquired over the years from all these different places, and then changing the narrative of it, because I really like my body now. I just kind of revel in it. Like I like
Mm.
enjoy it. Like I enjoy it. I know it's an asset now. I know I'm fine. I know I'm real fine for 36, and I I'm very aware of
Oh,
the.
I love my little drama, Shayna. Just wonderful. Girl, you
I
better not
know.
ever change. You better be this way right
I have
forever.
tried, it don't work. So yeah, I own that part while also being very aware that my body is holding years of trauma. And so the dance is a place where it's released. My art is a place that it's released. And then moments like this, where you get to kind of like almost reclaim your story, change the narrative of it, um, and then do good with it.
Oh,
So
yes.
does that
Yes.
make sense?
Girl, yes. And I want to that let's bring it all together. What would you share with the facts of body still holding trauma and stories and messages we get from the world and the work that you're doing with legends? What message do you want to leave with the young woman watching this? A teenager, a woman in her early 20s? What do you want her to take away from this interview today?
Um, there's this quote in The Bluest Eye in the before you get into the book, that Toni Morrison says about how we have to take agency in our beauty, and how, like, the story The Bluest Eye, and how she just wanted blue eyes so bad, and that was basically her wanting, whiteness.
Hmm.
And Toni Morrison says we get to take agency. And I say that a lot, where it's like I'm taking agency in my body and in my beauty. And I don't need your permission to give it to me. I get to decide that I'm beautiful, that, all of this that I have is me. And if I deny it, I am denying probably the most important relationship that I'll ever have. And so I take agency. That's the first thing. Like, I'll get up every day. This is it. This is me. I laugh at it. I laugh in the places where I used to be traumatized. That's
Mm.
important, so that the narrative can be changed. And I think the next thing that I would say is get about the business of sweating out those demons out your body, because I
Ooh.
cannot pretend like we all, especially if you are from a marginalized group,
Mm.
that you don't have trauma with your body. I mean,
Mhm.
even if the trauma just simply like, I am an other,
Mm.
therefore I don't feel beautiful. Those thoughts sit in your body. And I had a trainer tell me one time, Shay, you got to sweat them demons out. So I used to go running every day or walking every day, even when it was cold outside, Coco.
Yes.
And I would have a coat on and be just walking, listening to music, because I needed to sweat. I needed to get it out. I needed to make
Mm.
sure that the toxins were leaving my body. I needed to release memories. And I think a lot of that comes from physical activity. So if you're not doing any physical activity or meditative activity, I would say start. There are tools for releasing this
Yes.
stuff. I also think that in our community, we have a lot of diseases that are associated with the stuff that we hold in our body, and we don't
Mm.
realize it. So, if there was anything that I would say, get a practice that is releasing
Mm.
these toxins. And even if you think you're not releasing, you are drinking water, making sure that you are in spaces that raise your serotonin
Yes.
levels.
Yes.
Um, and those are the two
Yes.
things. The last thing I would say is comparing yourself to anybody is going to set you up for the fall, because only you are on this journey.
Mm.
And you were given each part of your body for a specific reason.
Yes.
I have the build that I have because of I believe that I'm supposed to look this way. That there is
Mm.
a person out there that if I hate this so much that I don't take pride in it, they won't recognize me when I show up. And
Mm.
my mom always said to me, she was like, you got to be you authentically so that the people that are called to you will recognize you when you show up. But if you are hiding
Oh.
and broken down and, oh, I don't know if I like this or I don't take pride in this, what if they don't know it's you?
Mm.
They're looking for a version of you so that they can then get from you what you are called to do. Your body is holding your purpose work as well. So in hating that body,
Mm.
you oftentimes your purpose work will get lost in the crossfire. I'm just learning that. I
Oh.
know that it's deeper than just the body, but if my body is holding the treasure, of my
Yes.
passions and my spirit and my soul realm, and then I hate it, then
Mm.
how do I get access to it? It'll always be a war.
Always.
It'll always be a war.
Oh, the issues are in our tissues. Ooh, girl.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, that sticks with me. Our issues, we hold them in our tissues. Gosh,
We
Shayna.
do. I just watched a resource. I don't know if it's still on Netflix. It's called Heal, and I
Okay.
watched it on a whim one day and cried like a baby. There were so many stories of women who had cancer, women who had psoriasis, women who had. Okay, put it on, soul. Um, I can't do it right now, baby. You can do it though. I'm right here.
So
I'm
we're
not
almost
supporting
done, honey.
you.
You've been so great for letting us borrow
Yes,
mommy.
Princess. No. She said, "Is she saying hi to me?"
I
Yes.
am. Yes, yes, yes.
But the go get a cup for me, baby. Go get it. Um, they were having all these different diseases, and there was no cause for it. Like the
Mm.
doctors would go and look, and they would be like, "It's your stress level. It's your stress." And then they would sit them with therapists, and the psoriasis would leave
Oh.
after doing. So I sell it to say, like, we want long life. We want to live this life fully. And I think that it spins back around to how we're treating our bodies, not just the physical, but internally as well. And if we're holding any hatred, and I would also like to say, if there's anyone in here who has had sexual trauma,
Mm.
that's a whole nother avenue. Any level of trauma has the ability to separate you from your body. You'll have a body, but you won't be a part of your body. It's like a disassociation. So
Mm.
trying to come back together as one is the goal.
And to just be compassionate and gentle with yourself, because
Yeah.
you phrased something, Shayna. You said I'm 36 and I'm just learning this. So if there's a 17-year-old, a 20-year-old watching this that's beating themselves up, it takes years to learn these
It
lessons,
takes
truly.
years.
Years. So and
I had a whole lot, baby. And I think that did it for me. I think that pushing out soul and realizing how strong I was in taking labor and pushing out this baby. I remember waking up the next day being like, I'm cold blooded. I'm bad. Something clicked. Like, yo, I am bad. And then I put on jeans and was starting to look like a woman. And I was like, oh, this is it. This is it. I can do this again. This is it. And
Oh,
but it took that. So if you're
yes.
17, 18, whoever watches this, or even if you're beyond it, even if you're older than me, it's a
Yes.
process and it's daily. And you never know what's going to trigger you back to being in connection. For me, it was having a baby and starting to see that I was attractive again
Mm,
after being in so many spaces that said I wasn't.
mm.
But if you give up on your body too soon, you won't see the other side of that. So extend grace and don't give up and don't get to the point where you're like, I can't be helped.
Mm.
That's not an option here.
At all. I agree.
That's not an option here.
Oh, Shayna, I love you so much for doing this,
I
girl. You done
love
dropped, you just,
you.
I feel like the rest of the day I got to sit with this interview. Like most interviews, they just linger with me. And you just really shared some things today that I just want to personally thank you for my, for my own
Thank
healing.
you.
So I love you dearly,
Thank
my friend,
you.
and
I
thank you for
love
sharing your
you.
story.
No problem. Thank you for having me. I would have never put me on like a body story, but it definitely, I'm going to sit with it because I don't think I've even thought of these things in years. So thank you for giving me an opportunity to think of, recall, and own some of these experiences that I have, which probably are leading to why I do things. I never made the connection between legends and what I experienced until today. Thank you.
I love you, hon. Mwah. Thank you for sharing your story.
Love you. I'll see you soon.